Welcome to the People of Nature podcast, a conservation optimism platform for the unheard India. Today we have a very special guest in our studio, Dr. Oishimaya Sen Nag, a conservation writer and editor. Welcome Oishi to our podcast.
Thank you, Pankaj. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you Oishi, thanks a lot. Now before we jump into the many interesting stories, let me introduce you to our audience. So Dr.
Sure.
Oishimaya Sen Nag, for short we are going to call her Oishi throughout the podcast. She is a conservation storyteller who travels across India documenting stories about the Indian wilderness and local communities. She communicates the stories to the masses through her writing. Oishi's love for the biological sciences led her to complete her PhD in the field of biochemistry, where she worked on the molecular neuroscience of Parkinson's disease. Oishi currently works as the senior editor of WorldAtlas and the consulting editor of the travel and environment magazine by Travelers World Media Company. She is also associated with various NGOs such as the Bombay Natural History Society and Greenhood Nepal. She has given talks on conservation at the Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industries. Oishi was interviewed by the Women of the Wild India team and also for a podcast by the Ground Report Media Company. She has received the Super 50 Wuzhu Award from the Indian Hospitality Network for her contribution to conservation. We very well appreciate Oishi to join us today. So welcome once again Oishi to the People of Nature podcast.
Thank you so much, Pankaj. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Thanks a lot Oishi. So Oishi, you have a PhD in biochemistry and today you are
Yeah,
known for your conservation writing. So
right.
we are curious to know what really prompted this transition.
Right. Yes. I was always interested in nature or wildlife
Mhm.
since my childhood days. But I did not have anybody, any friends or family in this field. Remotely, also, I
Okay.
never knew anybody who is in this field of conservation. So I
Mhm.
was also a lover of like biology as a subject. So traditionally, the way we go in India, so we I just started doing my master's and then my PhD
Yeah.
in biological sciences and medical science research in the Parkinson's disease. So that came naturally as a way I was since my
Mhm.
school days, I loved biology and it came naturally to me. But while
Yeah.
doing my research, but at the same time, I used to write articles for like the Telegraph editorial letters when I used to feel concerned about the environmental crisis happening around
Yeah.
me. So I used
Yeah.
to write for school magazines, college magazines about environmental situations, wildlife, and
Okay.
all. So that
Okay.
went in parallel with my biological science studies. But when I was doing my
Interesting.
PhD, and it was mostly laboratory work I was doing,
Mhm.
and on Parkinson's disease, it was interesting. But I realized that I was working on one single disease, and at that time I
Mhm.
started coming in connection with a lot of wildlife experts through social media, through
Okay.
newspaper, books, and all. And I came to learn that there's a bigger picture out there. That I mean, this
Mhm.
is one disease, but if the environment is
Yeah.
in crisis, if the biodiversity gets lost, so a bigger situation, a worse situation will happen when so many
Yeah.
diseases will strike us. And
Yes.
that happened actually when we saw the COVID, that can be
Yes.
linked
Very much.
to environmental issues, to the wildlife trade. So
Yes.
that's why when I understood this bigger picture, I thought that I want to contribute towards this field. The transition after that
Yeah.
wasn't easy. It wasn't suddenly I could go into that field, but
Yeah.
definitely my research skills in PhD, the way
Mhm.
I did online research, understood scientific reports and all, that helped me
Right.
later, to develop my
Mhm.
writing in the field of conservation, where I understood
Right.
the scientific research that the
Yeah.
wildlife biologists were doing. So it kind
Mhm.
of gradually I then transitioned into this field. I started writing for different
Wow.
publications. And I left this field and I went into the other writing, conservation
Okay.
writing and editing. Yes.
Wow. Wow. That's really interesting indeed. I think
Thank
those who are thinking of such career transition, I think you set up an example, and
you.
they should definitely take it seriously.
Right.
So I mean, congratulations to you, Oishi, because these
Thank you so
transitions
much.
are not easy.
Yes, it's
So,
not easy.
Oishi, so yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, Oishi, you currently work as a senior editor, for WorldAtlas,
Yes,
and as a science communicator with BNHS.
yes.
So, how has your work experience been here, and in which particular stories were widely received by the readers?
Right. So, like because I'm working with so many organizations and publications, I get an
Yeah,
opportunity to interact with various constituencies, various stakeholders in the field of conservation. Sometimes, like because of BNHS, I get to interact with the scientists who are working on the ground, and I get to
correct.
know that we think wildlife is a lot of glamour and all, but these scientists are working so hard. And I go to
Yes.
the field, I visit them, they're living there in the scorching heat, in the extreme rainfall, and without
Yeah.
internet, without even sometimes power on solar power they live, and
Yes.
sometimes electricity lines don't exist in the remote places where they work, and they are doing
Yeah.
such hard work. So I come to learn about them and how they are working hard in the field. Then I learn about the local communities. I visit the
Mhm.
people in the local communities and how they're living day on day off with wildlife in their
Yeah.
backyards, and even including wildlife that is sometimes causing losses to them in terms of human lives, or as property loss or crop loss. So
Yeah.
I come to, because of these publications that I'm working with, the organizations I'm working with, I come to, then
Mhm.
again I interact with the forest department officials, forest department staff. So I get to
Yeah.
interact with so many people, and conservation is
Yes.
something you need to know about everything before you can actually think of writing or think of solutions or something. So
Yeah.
it's important to know all the stakeholders. So these all these organizations, publications have given me the exposure to all this. So I'm really thankful for
Mhm.
that. And coming
Wow.
to the second question about what
Yeah.
articles people like, I've always
Mhm.
found that people, give more response to articles that have an effect on their emotion, that strike somewhere
Okay.
in the core of their
Okay.
heart. So if you
I
just
see. I
write
see.
something very scientific and all,
Mhm.
it is, of course it is important, but at the same time, if you want to reach out to the masses, because conservation is something that will never work if it doesn't reach
Yeah.
out to the
Yeah.
masses. So that's why you have to touch their hearts. So
Yeah.
somehow we have bring out the human connection with wildlife, or human
Mhm.
connection with humans and the people who are working in the field, and their problems and emotions and all that. So
Right. Right.
one
Yeah.
article did really well was on Sundarbans, that I
Mhm.
where I talked about the villagers and how they're living with the tigers, and then
Yeah.
another article on Vishnoi people where the women
Mhm.
breastfeed fawns,
Yes. Yes.
blackbird
Yeah.
fawns. So these kind of articles really touch people's hearts, and it gets
Oh,
more
I see.
response. Yes,
Wow.
yes,
So that's really amazing. So you get to, I mean, this looks like a really a vast landscape in which you are covering, and
yes,
coming writing stories from the ground. I think it's really a tough job to do. And as
yes,
you, I think,
yes,
rightly mentioned, wherever there are human emotions, I think people find those articles more, I guess, engaging.
yes,
I guess.
yes, yes,
But
true.
let me come to the next question, which is in line with these articles that you write.
Hmm.
So we know that people would connect to articles where there is a human touch or emotions
Yes,
involved. But what
yes,
are your favorite topics in conservation to
yes.
write about?
I'll tell you. My
Mm-hmm.
favorite topic, one is, of course, human wildlife interactions. I love covering that,
Mm-hmm.
about how the local communities are living with wildlife, and
Mm-hmm.
like, because these people are the ones who are actually facing the problems associated with living with wildlife.
Yeah.
And we in the cities or in the towns that are far away from such forested zones or grasslands and wetlands, we are alienated, I think we would say. So
Yeah.
these people are facing the issues, but at the same time, India has this wildlife. Today, despite having the second highest population in the world, over 1.4
Yeah.
billion people we have, but
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
still have wildlife because of these people. So I love talking
Right.
about these people. I love visiting them, and they are so warm in nature. Their warmth not only extends to other humans, but also to the wildlife
Mm-hmm.
around them. and that's why, despite the issues they face, they allow the wildlife to stay with them, right? So I
Right.
think I love covering their work. And along with that, very important I find is talking about the lesser known species. And
Okay.
when I, yeah, because big cats or the megafauna, they are,
Yeah.
people are covering more and more. There's a lot of funding there. There's a, overall there's a good response from
Yes.
everybody for such conservation of such animals. But there are lots of landscapes outside these tiger reserves, and
Yeah.
lesser known species living there, which need attention, like the Saras cranes in the Vidarbha region are there, then the lesser
Yeah.
floric, great Indian bustard, fishing cat,
Yes.
all these species I like talking about them. And also when I talk about them, I ensure that there is a touch that is again an emotional touch, so that,
Mhm. Right.
and how to do that is often, I go back in history, because when you go back in
Mhm.
history, you find, like for example, the Saras
Yeah.
crane is associated with the Ramayana and the Buddhism,
Mhm.
and talk about
Right.
all that. People get interested then that there's a
Yes. Yes.
historical past association with humans. You try to talk
Right.
about those species, and that works that better. Yes,
Wow. Wow. So, in fact, both these topics that you mentioned, I guess, personally, I'm also much interested in working. I work on lesser known species. I work on
right.
dragonflies.
Yes, yes. I
I
read
work on
about your
owls.
work.
So,
Yes,
I like people who talk about lesser known species because there are very
right.
few of them, and in fact, this
Absolutely.
whole tribe is sort of endangered.
Yes,
So
yes,
yeah,
yes.
definitely. I mean, they really need a lot of ground, to
Right.
cover, and so many
Yes,
stories about them. So many stories out there.
yes, yes.
So wow,
Right.
that's interesting to hear from you, Oshi, that you're also
Yes.
specifically working on these topics,
Yes,
which
I
not many
try to
people
work
actually.
on lesser known species.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
Amazing. So to cover all these stories, you have been traveling across India, and
Yes.
that must be a really great experience. So can you
Yes.
narrate any interesting anecdotes or travel experiences while you were
Yes.
doing your job?
Right. I'll to tell you an experience like close home to me. I'm from Kolkata, and I
Mhm.
went to
Mhm.
Sundarbans once. And
Mhm.
in Sundarbans, basically, I was like, it's a different landscape. I think everyone should
Yeah.
once go to Sundarbans to get their,
Mhm.
primal fears like alive again, because it's a
Yeah.
place. I went to the villages. It's not just
Mhm.
traveling in the boat vessels and seeing wildlife, but I actually
Mhm.
skipped from one village to another. I went there, and I
Mhm.
interacted with villagers in their homes, and I started
Mhm.
interviewing them, talking with them. And it was incredible, because I found that there, every village, there is somebody or the other who has been taken away
Mhm.
by a tiger maybe 2 months earlier.
Oh, wow.
Yes, it's like that. Or you'll find somebody who has
Scary.
been killed by a snake, or somebody by a crocodile. So
Oh
there
my
are
God.
families all around you. You will come to know about who have died
Right.
this way. And also, what happens is there are islands that are inhabited by villagers. There are islands that are inhabited by
Mhm.
tigers, and the islands that are inhabited by tigers are separated
Mhm.
from those villages by nylon netting. So what has happened now is
Okay.
tigers usually don't stray into the villages, but villagers still go to the tigers, to collect honey to the in the forest, to collect crabs. That's kind of an illegal entry, sometimes
Yeah.
without permit. They go in and they get killed. So I
Mhm.
interacted. I found a very, like,
Oh.
wise old man kind of a person over there, and he
Mhm.
was sitting outside his home in the village, and he was wearing a nice dhoti
Mhm.
and sipping a hookah. And I spoke to him, like,
Okay.
I was interested. I had a question. And he also had a tiger, claw mark on his arm. He had been attacked when he
Oh.
was young, and he was very fortunate one to escape that. So
Mhm.
I told him, grandfather, you have seen so many people, your own people, his family, friends, they have also
Right.
been lost to tiger attacks,
Yeah.
and you yourself were attacked. So we are talking about tiger protection. So do you think we should protect the tiger? What are your
Mhm.
views? I asked him,
Mhm.
and he told me that, daughter, listen. If I today leave my house, me and my family leave my house and go away just like that, then dacoits will come and loot away my house and leave. So
Oh.
similarly, if the tiger leaves the Sundarban, then the people from outside will come and just clear away the
Oh.
forest and kill everything. So then we, the people of Sundarbans, will be left with nothing, because we depend on the forest. So we think the tigers
Mhm.
should be safe because the tigers keep the forest safe. So that is their belief. And I thought
Wow.
this person has never gone to school, never had any conservation
Mhm.
degree, never done anything, but this is his belief that tigers are
Wow.
important because tigers keep the forest intact. And that, like, 80-year-old man kind of, he
Interesting.
just told me this story, and I was so impressed that day. That was a very, very happy memory that I shared.
Amazing, amazing. So
Yes,
even so, first of all, you narrated about what has happened to the village, and there is wildlife attacks, or
yes,
someone has lost, but still
yes,
people believe that tigers should be there, and that's really amazing. The way people
yes,
think, and
yes, yes.
they have these
Another,
connections.
yeah, there was two women. They were
Mhm.
sister-in-laws. One lost her husband to a tiger attack, and the other to a crocodile attack. They were just sitting beside me,
Oh,
and I also asked them. They said, we are like prey to the tigers,
oh,
so we have accepted the fact that we go to the forest, the tiger will kill us. We are prey, and they are predator. So this is a kind of
wow,
like belief system they have in the Sundarbans,
wow.
and actually, to tell the truth, if people want, they can finish off the tigers with today's modern techniques, tools, and all. Tigers are
Mhm.
nothing left. It is a people who accept their
Right,
presence, because of which we do have the
right,
wildlife
right.
still in the forests. Yeah.
Right, right. So, I mean, in fact, these human-wildlife relations can be simply categorized into conflict and coexistence. And
Right.
what you write, I think there is a very strong emphasis on the coexistence, especially
Yes.
between the tribals and wildlife.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
while working on this topic of human-wildlife coexistence, especially
Right.
tribals and wildlife,
Right.
what were your greatest revelations while covering this particular topic?
Yes, when you talk about tribals, I did not have to go very far for a revelation, as you say.
Mm-hmm.
I went to
Mm-hmm.
Mumbai, and in
Yeah.
Mumbai, few people know Mumbai for Bollywood and finance center and
Yeah.
everything. But in
Yes. Yes.
Mumbai, Sanjay Gandhi National Park also maybe people know, but
Yeah.
surrounding the Sanjay Gandhi National Park in Mumbai, because Sanjay Gandhi National Park is a population of around 45 leopards, wild leopards,
Yes.
and
Yes.
in and around the park. And in the RA Milk Colony in Sanjay Gandhi,
Mm-hmm.
just adjacent to the Sanjay Gandhi National Park, there is a forested,
Yeah.
it's kind of a forested landscape there also.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there are some small hamlets of tribals people living.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a home of of a Varli family living there,
Mm-hmm.
and I went there, and I interacted with the person who the head of the
Mm-hmm.
house. And,
Yeah.
he told me about the situation. He told me that people say that, like, people are talking about, take these Adivasi away, take the tribal people away from their homes. They need
Mm-hmm.
development, they need
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
improve, should improve, and they are very, very backward still. They are not
Yeah.
educated, they're poor. So he said, look at me, look at my house here. So do you think I'm really
Mm-hmm.
poor? Because you see, just there's so many trees, there's so much oxygen around me. And his
Yeah.
house was truly beautiful. It was mud home
Mm-hmm.
with Varli
Mm-hmm.
paintings, painted. And the Varli paintings are so beautiful
Yeah.
in rice, dust,
Yes.
and cotton mixed together. So that Varli paintings all over their homes. And he then said that when we are taken away, it is not just that we are, as humans, are going, but our culture, our these
Yeah.
paintings, art, our food, our, like, worship, like religion,
Right.
everything together, that culture vanishes when we go into the city.
Right.
And you see, in the city, the people, they live with cats and dogs, but we have tiger,
Mm.
leopard in our backyard. Yeah, and he
Wow.
said that is the city we are so rich, that's why. And actually, when
Amazing.
his son's marriage was there, just a day before, a leopard came, just
Mm-hmm.
in the his kitchen, and he told his wife, say,
Oh.
देखो बाघोबा आए हैं बेटे को blessing देने के लिए, because
Wow.
Baghova is the leopard god. They worship the leopard there as a leopard
Mm-hmm.
god, and they also have a temple there that you can see the
Okay.
many temples and shrines there where the leopard is worshipped. You can go and see the
Okay.
garlands for the leopards and all. They believe that,
Mm-hmm.
and they believe
Right.
the leopard is family to them. So that is my revelation, that
Wow.
these people are so close to nature, they understand nature so well, and development
Yeah.
doesn't mean that totally shifting them from uprooting them,
Yeah.
because we are losing their cultures
Right.
as well. Yes.
Very true. Very true. In
Yes.
fact, what you just mentioned about this RA milk colony and the whole issue over there, this has been also
Yes,
discussed in one of our previous podcast by another
right.
podcast people. So,
Okay.
when government decides, when the politicians decide or the management decides to do something,
Hmm.
very little we can do, right? But
Right.
in since you are into writing and you are writing on these all hot issues as such, so in your
Right.
opinion, how can media coverage of conservation
Hmm.
issues inform
Hmm.
conservation decisions, policy, especially in the
Yes.
country? And do
Yes.
you think it really plays a role?
Yes, it of course plays a role, and it's not just me saying, it's a research proving it. There's
Hmm.
an article, I mean, it's actually a scientific article by Vidya Athreya and group, Dr. Vidya
Yeah,
Athreya, scientist,
yeah.
and she has researched, and she has found that
Hmm.
media definitely they research, they basically took the headlines of the different news stories related to wildlife
Hmm.
attacks and all, and they
Right,
found
right.
that when the headlines are very negative, in the sense they are proving the
Hmm.
animal
Yeah.
to be a monstrous kind of a being,
Yes,
something like
yes, yes,
that,
yes.
that induces a negative response from the public in
Hmm.
general. And therefore, of course, when the public is always important to the the policy makers and the government, so
Yeah,
they will always
yeah.
respond to what the public wants. So when the public is angry, they will respond accordingly. But when the media headlines, so then they also did workshops with the journalists and all, and they explained
Hmm.
the issue. Actually, it was a leopard issue in Mumbai, the leopards entering homes and all. And then
Yeah.
they provided proper guidance to the journalists and all. And then when the journalists started writing the articles,
Okay.
then the topics were more like balanced, and titles were more balanced, nothing too sensitive
Oh,
or sensational like that. Then they found that the
right.
response was good. Gradually, positive outcomes came out, and people got together to find out solutions, proper solutions, instead of
Hmm.
reacting suddenly, in a
Wow.
wrong way that would be harmful to wildlife. So media, that's why very important for media to be
Mhm.
responsible in what they
Right,
write.
right,
Do good research, write the right facts, take the interviews from the
right.
experts, and not distort. Often media distorts the
Yeah.
the quote of the experts. I've seen that. Many, even many media channels do that, and that is not right. You should not distort for sensational views. This is, you should be very responsible when
Yeah.
it comes to something as vital as environment and wildlife, because that
Yeah,
affects
yeah.
everybody. Yes.
Yeah, in fact, I mean, I completely agree with you. In fact, I personally have seen that even in print media, many a times there is a
Yes.
distortion of the news, or
Yes.
there are a lot of
Yes.
pseudoscience basically that goes to the public.
Yes.
And in the first place, the mainstream media does not cover much of conservation. Okay, that
Right.
is, I think, pretty well known. So,
True.
if you think that that changes, if the mainstream media starts covering conservation, so
Right.
which topics do you think they should focus on?
Again, I think, of course, lesser known species and habitats outside tiger
Mhm.
reserves, like the
Mhm.
wetlands, grasslands, even ocean. I think the marine part is hardly covered. And we forget about
Right.
the entire ocean that is out there, and we talk. Our kind of
Yeah.
view on conservation is like we just see forest in front of us, but
Yeah.
entire ocean is affecting the climate and everything. So very important
Very
that the
much.
ocean is also included, and of course grasslands and wetlands. And along with that, I think the infrastructure projects, the major infrastructure
Mhm.
projects that are coming up, what are the consequences going to be, and that the
Yeah.
public should be well informed about. Like for example, like there's going to be a river linking project coming up, and that's going to submerge the Panna Tiger Reserve, a large portion of the core area. And we
Yes.
don't know what's going to be the future consequence of the river linking project. So these kind of
Yes.
projects, media hardly covers them, and they are just happening, and nobody is knowing
Yeah.
about them or happening. And then in maybe 20, 10, 20, 30 years later, we'll face the consequences. People will die,
Yeah.
maybe, and, everything will be gone, like because of
Yes.
these the future consequences we don't know. So I think media should cover these also.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. In fact, I think these workshops kind of thing that you just mentioned before in a previous
Yes.
answer to the previous question. I think these
Yes.
kind of workshops are very important for the journalists. And of course,
Yes.
they are also pressurized with their bosses, and also
Yes. Yes.
everyone has to be aware of what's happening around
Yes.
us in a way.
Yes. True. True. Very needed.
So,
Yes.
uh, so we discussed about your career transition, and we would like to know more about it. You must have faced some challenges, right? You transitioned from, biology and academia into
Yes.
conservation writing. It's completely different
Right.
job altogether.
Right.
So,
Right.
did you face any challenges, and how did you overcome those difficulties?
Yes, challenges, challenges are always there, but I try to take the positive out of whatever I can, because I found that
Yeah.
whatever you learn in your life, nothing goes to waste. Like if you are learning
Mhm.
painting, if you're learning cooking, you're learning anything, everything can
Yeah.
become useful. And conservation is a field where everything comes in useful, like all
Yes.
kinds of knowledge, because it's such an interdisciplinary field, and whatever knowledge you've gathered. So my like research field totally helped me a lot, because
Mhm.
I could interpret the scientists and the work in the wildlife field, the wildlife research
Yeah.
and all, and the conservation, read the scientific papers and all. But the transition
Mhm.
itself was difficult in the sense, because see, first of all, family also they thought that I would be in the field like doing postdoc in
Mhm.
the career
Yeah.
that initially chosen, and going
Yeah.
for postdoc, get established as a professional in the field. So they
Right.
were
Right.
like very in shock to make them understand and what I wanted. So that was
Mhm.
difficult. And
Right.
for me also, like, it was a choice, and it was a difficult choice, because I did get a
Right.
postdoc opportunity in the US. At the same
Mhm.
time, I got this writing editing opportunity, and it was a
Okay.
choice. Here it was starting from scratch, and there was already I was
Yes.
established in the field.
Yeah.
So that transition was difficult, but
Mhm.
sometimes I always go back into my heart and just ask me, like, what is it I really want? And I
Mhm.
took the, and I don't regret it at all. Initially I had to do a lot of I did a lot of hard work. I did a lot
Yeah.
of study. I enrolled for many online courses, webinars on
Mhm.
wildlife and everything, and I
Yeah.
followed a lot of inspirational conservationists out there. I listened to their
Right.
talks. I went and did all these small courses. BNHS offers many courses. I did all of
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
So I started like preparing myself in for this field, and gradually I
Okay.
started learning. So yes, so that's how it
Right.
happened. Yes,
Oh, interesting. So it was a well-informed decision, and you were
yes,
mentally prepared to do it. So
yes, yes,
you had. Oh, great.
yes,
So you took a leap of faith, and it worked.
yes, yes.
Yeah. Great. Great. So,
Yeah.
uh, actually, this the scientific journalism or conservation writing as such, or writing in general, both have been historically male-dominated fields. So,
Yes,
what
yes.
gender challenges have you faced working in the conservation writing field?
Hmm. I think I would say the challenge is inside a mind. There's actually really no challenge out there. If you
Mhm.
think it's in the mind, the way we are brought up as women, we are taught that it's difficult for women. It's women cannot travel alone, and there's
Yeah.
always a barrier in our mind. I always felt that. I always felt that there was a barrier that I had to cross one
Mhm.
day, and I couldn't.
Right.
I was
Right.
always traveling with my family and never traveled with my friends, even, and even alone. Ever, no, never thought of it till
Right.
I started transitioning into this career. I was always traveling with family and all. So that barrier
Okay.
I crossed. It was with the help of a friend of mine. She runs a women-led expeditions. She told me, "You come
Okay.
with me," and and then I went with her, and then I started
Mhm.
going gradually alone. So
Okay.
another thing I would say, that I would really say that women totally don't have anything to fear, especially I've traveled in India long distances
Mhm.
alone in cars with drivers, unknown drivers. I've traveled long
Mhm.
distances, stayed in many places alone, and totally I've done my travels alone across the length and breadth of India. Every month, almost
Yeah.
every month, I travel solo.
Yeah.
So during all these trips, I would say, I really did not have an unpleasant experience. I
Mhm.
avoid traveling in the dark. There are certain things I have to keep in mind being
Yeah.
a woman, instead of
Right.
that may definitely have the advantage in that area. But
Right.
besides that, like otherwise, I would say my travels in India for wildlife, to remote places, to villages, having good, and the
Mhm.
villages are they so respect a woman, and I think being a woman is
Mhm.
also an advantage at times, because they
Okay.
open up more. They start speaking to
I
you
see.
more, they connect with you more emotionally, the women and the men. So they start
Right.
interacting with you and reveal more about their stories, they talk more to you.
Right.
So in that way it's also, and they're very warm and welcoming, very respectful, I would say.
Mhm.
I really did not have that kind of a bad experience to talk about. But yes, there's a challenge that's there in our heads, and that we have to
Yeah.
cross, and then we can do everything, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really good to hear such positive thinking and positiveness
Yes,
about
yes.
how these challenges can be overcome. So
Yes,
thanks a
because
lot,
I think,
Arshi, for
yeah,
that.
just one. I think the challenges that are there, actually there's like partiality in the field, or
Mm, yeah.
that is faced by both men and women. I think the challenges are
Mm,
both. Both have to face. Of course, like women have a problem because they are brought up in a way, or our
mm,
society went up with a mindset that you cannot do this, but actually women
correct.
can do
Yeah.
things. That is the thing that's
Yeah.
there, and I hope we should get rid of it. Yeah.
Right. Very true indeed. I mean, what you're saying, I guess, if there is a continuous systematic change happening, I think at
Yes.
various level, then I think it can
Yes.
really progress into uh, a really big
Yes.
change as such. So,
Yes. Yes.
coming to our last question,
Yes.
since you work in the conservation writing domain and you have been now switched your
Yeah.
career also already for
Right.
that,
Right.
so what is your advice to our audience, particularly budding conservation writers?
Right. Right. Basically, to everybody, I would say, like whether writer or not writer, I would say that like whatever profession you are in,
Mm,
because nature you are taking throughout your life, you'll be taking,
yeah.
just try to give back, because and everybody can do that. A doctor can go and work and do some like voluntary camps for the local communities. A lawyer can
Yes.
help
Yes.
fight the environmental cases. A
Right.
painter can through creative means, through paintings, can tell the stories, the issues, the
Mm,
conservation issues, and reach out to the masses. Musicians can use
right.
music. So nowadays there's music for conservation. There's in Greenwood,
Right.
Nepal, they are using music to
Yeah.
spread the message of conservation.
Oh,
Everybody
yes.
can somehow or the other. The ones who are industrialists, they can do philanthropic
Mm,
efforts. They can do the funding. So
yeah.
everybody can and should contribute, because you are taking from nature
Mm,
throughout your life. Everything we
yes.
use is somehow or the other from nature. So we are taking
Yeah.
so much. We should give back. So I think everybody
Yes.
should give back. And as for the budding writers, I would say, I think there are lots of very talented writers out there.
Mm,
But I think somehow we all have to realize, we all have to research well as to how to reach
mm,
out to the masses even better. Because I still think wildlife
right.
writing, wildlife
Mm,
storytelling, and all is still not reaching out to the masses as they should. If you go to the
right.
bookstores and all, see wildlife books, hardly you see, wildlife.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
is it so? So we have to find out the reason, I think. Then, because we have the talent already, talent is there, but why we can't reach out to the everybody? That is, we should
Yes.
research, find out, and then we should write accordingly, that we can reach out to everybody. I think that is important. Yes.
Wow. So that's amazing advice indeed, that everyone should give back to the nature because we are taking so much from it. So
Yes.
thanks a lot, Oishi, for being a part of this podcast. We really enjoyed listening to you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks a
Pankaj.
lot.
It was an honor to be part of this, and thank you so much. And also, you are such a great contributor to conservation. You are doing your research, so congratulations on that, and thank
Thank
you
you,
too.
Oishi.
Yes, yes, thank you.